Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's SCORE Fairfield County's live webinar on Unlocking the Mystery of Franchising. I'm Bob Hogan, the webinar coordinator and a business mentor here at SCORE in Fairfield County, and I'll be your host today. Our presenter today is Carolyn Tormey. More about Carolyn in just a moment, but first I'd like to give you some brief information on SCORE. As many of you know, SCORE is a national organization with over 320 offices across the country and 11,000 volunteers. It was started in the mid-1960s, and it's part of the Small Business Administration of the federal government. Locally here at SCORE Fairfield County, we have over 100 volunteers with a wide range of industry, process, and subject matter expertise, and we offer 3 primary value-added services to small business owners. We offer one-on-one counseling, which could be face-to-face or by telephone, email, or Skype. We offer a range of educational workshops and webinars like the one we're doing here today. And we have extensive resources on our website, including a network of subject experts that are always at your disposal. Our next webinar is on December the 6th, when Sunil Sharma will present retirement and tax planning for small businesses. And for more details on that, please look on our website at scorefairfieldcounty.org. Some information about today's event. We will stop sharply at 1 p.m. and respect your time. The conference is being recorded, and the link to the recording and the slide materials will be available on the scorefairfieldcounty.org website within the next week or so. We're going to set aside time for questions and answers at the end of Carolyn's presentation, likely about a quarter to the hour. So if you have a question, please at any time during the webinar today, please use the chat window that you'll see on the lower left of your screen at any time during the presentation, and I will moderate the questions toward the end. Now, my pleasure to introduce our speaker. Carolyn Tormey is a franchise coach with the Entrepreneur Source, a 33-year-old company that specializes in helping clients identify and evaluate franchise and small business opportunities based on the client's goals, needs, skill set, financial parameters, and unique business criteria. Carolyn is also a SCORE counselor and serves as a franchising subject matter expert. So now I'd like to turn it over to Carolyn. Carolyn, all yours.
Thank you so much, Bob, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. That's me. I'm your presenter, and as Bob mentioned, I am an eSource coach and SCORE counselor. What we're going to talk about today, we are going to talk about the economic outlook for franchise businesses, some general information about franchising, what is it and why is it successful, how to know if you're a good candidate for franchise ownership, and franchise research, how to properly evaluate a franchise opportunity. And that's a little bit of information about us. A coaching franchise, we have about 100 offices scattered across North America, and we help people with franchise coaching, help them identify, research, and select the best business ownership opportunity for them through a step-by-step educational coaching process. So we're going to start with some economic information and trends with regard to the franchise sector. This study was done for the IFA, or International Franchise Association, by HIS Global Insight. They're an independent leading economic analysis and forecasting firm. The table you see shows the projected economic outlook for 2015. Now this is based on data that was nearly complete, so these are close to actual figures. With regard to number of establishments, employment levels, and output, and how those projections compare to data from the prior year. The analysis also categorizes franchise businesses into 10 broad business lines. Now, I know this type is a bit small. Hopefully you can see that growth rates in 2015 exceeded those for 2014. The number of establishments increased 1.6%, employment levels increased 2.9%, and output increased 5.4%. Projections for 2016 for this year were also positive. By the end of this year, the number of franchises is expected to have increased by 1.7%. Employment in the franchise sector should show growth of just over 3%, and output by 5.8%, just ahead of last year's projections. With regard to some of the specific business lines, consumer spending should show 3% growth by year end, causing retail products and services franchises to remain strong. We should also see accelerated business spending, which would indicate a boost to business services franchises. And both the quick service and table service restaurant business lines will likely show employment as well as output growth. So we anticipate that the trend will continue and that actual figures will show improvements in the pace of growth of the franchise sector in 2016, which of course is good news for franchise businesses. Now, most of us have some familiarity with franchising, certainly as consumers, or even knowing someone who owns a franchise. However, as widespread as franchising is, most people really don't understand how it all works. Contrary to popular belief, franchising is not really an industry, but rather it's a way of doing business. Franchising is defined as a method of distributing products and services using a network of local owners operating under a shared brand. Another way of expanding a business model or brand is through corporate managed expansion, and an example of that would be Starbucks. Although part of a larger organization, franchisees are local business owners and members of the local community, which is why franchises are described as locally owned and operated. Owners or franchisees are granted the right to use a company's trademarks and business plan for a certain number of years, a specified term, which is typically about 10 years, in exchange for a franchise fee that is paid upfront and ongoing monthly royalty payments. The franchisor, in turn, provides an initial training program, ongoing support, research and development, as well as economies of scale regarding products, equipment, technology, and advertising. What are the advantages of franchising compared to operating an independent business? Certainly the ability to benefit from a proven operating system and established brand awareness. The franchisor typically has marketing and lead generation programs in place to assist their franchisees. Training and professional guidance. Franchisors provide both an initial training program as well as continuous ongoing support. And there's an additional layer of support that people don't often think about that comes through the network of other owners in the system. In franchising, territories are typically protected, so the owners are not in competition with one another, but are in most cases a valuable source of mentorship and support. There are economies of scale in terms of advertising and purchasing power, having access to trademarks and any other intellectual property. It's an efficient way to be in business for yourself, but not having to completely go it alone. The ultimate goal of the franchisor is to create a win-win situation where both the franchisee and franchisor benefit from the relationship. The disadvantages of franchising are that you aren't completely independent. You, as the franchisee, are expected to follow the business plan of the franchise. And there are certain costs associated with owning the franchise that are paid to the franchisor for the entire term of the agreement, such as royalties and advertising fees. You need to balance the franchisor's rules with your own ability to manage the business. And not all franchisees may perform the same. Some might perform poorly. And while this might not have a direct impact on your business, it could affect the brand overall. The franchisor could experience unforeseen problems that might affect its franchisees. The terms of the agreement have limitations that do need to be adhered to. However, having said that, potential franchisees are aware of those terms prior to signing an agreement. But in general, the system needs to be followed. There is a highly acclaimed book some of you might be familiar with called The E-Myth, or The Entrepreneurial Myth, by Michael Gerber. The E-Myth is the belief that if you like what you do, you will be successful. You probably have heard the saying, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life, right? Well, that is not always true. In fact, in the majority of businesses where the owner is the technician, the one who makes the donuts, the business ends up not being so successful. And that is because knowing how to do the technical work, like being a chef or a hairdresser or a mechanic, does not necessarily make you capable of properly running a business. In franchise models, the owners are typically managing the business but not performing the technical work. When I ask people what businesses come to mind when I mention franchising, they say food-related businesses like McDonald's or Dunkin' Donuts, which is not surprising because these are the businesses that are the most visible to us as we're out and about, driving down a commercial street. However, it might surprise you that there is a tremendous amount of variety in franchising. It really has evolved over the years and is definitely not just about burgers and subs. In fact, food-related businesses account for only about 1/3 of all franchises, which means that the majority are not food-related at all. And I think because franchises are equated with fast food brick-and-mortar businesses, the perception is that you need to have a significant amount of capital to own a franchise. The reality is that there are a wide variety of investment levels available in franchising, starting at about $25,000 on the low end of the spectrum to high six figures on the upper end. The majority of our clients invest anywhere between $50,000 and about $200,000. And most of our clients also finance part of their business investment. There are a variety of funding options available and some that you might not be aware of. For example, many people don't realize that you can use your retirement funds to invest in the business without incurring taxes or penalties. And if you're interested in this topic, SCORE offers a great workshop on small business funding that you might want to attend. I think they hold it at least once a year. When thinking about investing in a franchise, it is equally important to consider the various types of ownership that are available as it is the specific type of business model. Now, the type of ownership you choose will depend on a few things. How large a business you wish to develop, your background and skill set, as well as your own financial resources. Now, as you can see there are 4 different types of ownership we're going to talk about. The first is single unit ownership, and that gives the franchisee the right to operate one franchise unit. Many franchisees enter the world of franchising by owning one unit. It's a good method to get in and understand the system before taking on more units. The franchisee may have a small radius of exclusive territory to operate within. If it's a retail store, for example, that area of exclusivity may be a 2 or 3 mile radius around the store. If it's a home-based business, the area may consist of a few specific zip codes. But typically, the franchisee is very involved with almost all operations of this type if it's single-unit ownership. As a multi-unit owner, the franchisee acquires more than one unit of the franchise at reduced upfront franchise fees for the second and third and subsequent units. The risk is lower because the franchisee can take advantage of the economies of scale theory by spreading out the risks as well as the opportunities and not be dependent upon one single location. Franchises call these 3-packs, 5-packs, etc. There's even 10-packs, where the protected territory is now 3, 5, or even 10 times the size of a single unit. The build-out schedule will be at a relaxed but predetermined pace. The franchisee maintains that exclusive geographic territory as long as the opening schedule is maintained. The territories range from a small city to parts or all of a larger city. And the franchisee with multi-unit ownership is less involved with each of the unit operations, but will be managing multiple operations and will need to have some level of supervision in each of those units. Co-brand ownership is where the franchisee simply owns more than one brand. An example would be where you see a Subway or a Baskin-Robbins under one roof, but it could be where the franchisee owns 2 or more brands, not necessarily combined into one location. A master franchise has the rights to a much larger exclusive territory than that of a multi-unit owner. Master franchises are also sometimes called regional developers. But the territories are usually a large metropolitan area. It could even be an entire state or even several states or an entire country. It is also an exclusive area and will remain exclusive as long as the master franchisee meets the development schedule of franchises in the territory. Again, you have to adhere to that development schedule. The master developer becomes somewhat of a sub-franchisor for that area without having experienced all the trial and error of the original franchisor. The master franchisee will usually set up and operate at least one pilot location for income and to use as a training center. And very rarely is a master franchisee hands-on in a unit franchise. They tend to spend more of their time operating like a business consultant or a coach to their franchisees to help them become more successful. How do you know you have what it takes to be an entrepreneur? Here are some questions that you might want to ask yourself. First of all, are you willing to take the trade-off of creating opportunity for yourself instead of having job security? Are you interested in seeing the results of your efforts versus just having routine work to do every day? Would you rather put effort into making a business profitable, or would you prefer to receive a steady paycheck? Are you excited about trying new ideas as opposed to avoiding mistakes? And do you have a long-term vision of where you want to be financially, or are you focused more on short-term gain? And how do you know if you're a good candidate for franchise ownership? We suggest that you ask yourself, are you willing and able to follow the franchisor's business plans or rules and accept training and coaching? Would you be accepting of the fact that the franchisor needs to think about making decisions that benefit the franchise network as a whole versus the individual owners within that network? Would you be willing to share financial information for reporting purposes? And do you like to learn new skills? In general, would you be able to embrace and follow the franchisor's proven system? This is a question that a lot of people ask me. What is the hot franchise? What's the hot franchise for today? And I guess the response is usually a little bit disappointing for them because there really is no such thing. It really is, in franchising, one size really does not fit all. It's really all about finding the right business model and the right fit for the individual. So when considering franchise opportunities, people typically think about businesses that pertain to what they have done in the past in their career, or something that they're passionate about, a hobby or an interest, like the examples that we saw in the eMyth slide. Now, there's not necessarily anything wrong with that, but it is also important to make sure that the business will allow you to achieve your goals in the long run. The way we look at things is that a business should be a vehicle or a means to accomplishing income, lifestyle, wealth, and equity goals. So we recommend that you explore concepts outside of your comfort zone. Consider industries you might not be familiar with. Many of my clients actually find it very refreshing, whether or not they have enjoyed their career, but having the opportunity to do something brand new is often very refreshing. And since franchise companies provide training and the support structure, you don't have to have direct industry experience, but you can use a transferable skill set to experience and operate a business that's in a brand new industry. Most successful franchisees have no prior experience in that industry. Focus on understanding how the business model works and what the role of the owner is. What does the day-to-day look like for the owner? Would you enjoy those activities, and do they align with your skill set? It's helpful to stay objective by gathering facts and information from the most appropriate sources, rather than allowing emotions and perceptions to get in the way of an objective evaluation. And does it create a win-win situation? In reality, a franchise company does not achieve long-term success unless its franchisees are successful. So how does the franchise help its franchisees be successful? We suggest that you keep your goals in mind and remember that you don't necessarily need to love a product or service to actually benefit from it through business ownership. What is the best way to gather facts about a franchise? How do you perform franchise research? We suggest that you start by getting an understanding of the concept and the details about the business model from the franchisor. They really are the best resource for this information, and they will teach you about the concept through having conversations, maybe attending a webinar, and providing other documentation and reading material. At some point, they will provide a copy of their FDD, or Franchise Disclosure Document. This is a very lengthy document. It is divided into items, very similar to chapters of a book. The FTC requires that all franchise companies publish an FDD. It includes a lot of helpful information about the franchise, such as a copy of the franchisor's standard agreement, the franchisor's audited financial statements, and a breakdown on a line item basis of the total investment required to begin operations. It also includes a list of current franchisees, as well as franchisees who have left the system within the last 12 months. Some of them include an item 19. This is the only item that is optional. It provides information on the income potential of the franchise, and it's stated in averages, not on a per unit basis. And even if a particular franchise doesn't include their item 19, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not a viable franchise, but it certainly is helpful information to have available. If they don't have an item 19, then in most cases you're going to be reliant upon speaking to the owners in the system. This step is called validation, and it really is, I think, one of the most valuable parts of the process of learning about a franchise, so you want to take some time in doing this. And in some cases, the franchisor will provide you with contact information for several owners. It's also important, as you can imagine, to develop projected financial statements. We suggest a few scenarios: best case, worst case, and as expected. And understand how long it will likely take to break even, and so that you can plan for enough working capital. Get professional advice from an attorney with franchise experience. We think that this is very important. Many of our clients have all or part of the franchise agreement reviewed, and even some parts of the FDD. But we highly suggest that if you're going to hire an attorney, you want to find one that has franchise experience. And consider attending a discovery day or meet the team day. This is a great opportunity where you can visit the corporate headquarters, meet the executive management team, ask questions face-to-face, and also assess the culture of the organization. which is very important, more important than some people realize, because each franchise has its own unique personality, and you want to feel like you would fit in with that culture of the franchise. And also keep in mind that this is an awards process. As you evaluate franchises, you have to consider that franchises cannot be purchased, they are awarded. Recognize that this is a two-way street. The franchise company is evaluating you to see what kind of a franchisee you would be as you go through the process. And I actually think this is very positive. Sometimes people are taken aback by this, but you really want to feel like there is some degree of selectivity. You wouldn't want to join a franchise organization that just brought anybody into their network. Really the most important thing to remember is to start with goals and stay objective. Complete a thorough evaluation so that you can feel confident that you have found an appropriate franchise fit. These are some examples of the typical goals that our clients have in mind when considering a business opportunity. Oftentimes they want to have more control over their destiny and their career. They're looking to have freedom and independence. Sometimes they want to build and manage their own team, or build equity for themselves instead of for other people. In many cases, they want to be responsible for their own success or failure and also achieve professional satisfaction. Sometimes they're looking to make a difference in their community or leave a legacy. This isn't an exhaustive list, but these are some of the reasons that our clients are looking to be business owners. Well, we have come to the end of our presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. And now we're going to take a few minutes to answer any questions that were sent in. So I'm going to hand it back over to you, Bob.
Great. Thanks, Carolyn. And just a reminder to those of you on, if you have a question for Carolyn, could you please send it in by the chat feature in the lower left part of your screen. And maybe while we're waiting for people to do that, Carolyn, maybe I could maybe start it off by saying, could you talk a little bit more about the risks of franchising? If someone's thinking of going in, what should they think about in terms of what might go wrong, and try to avoid those risks?
Well, I think that in business ownership, it's important, and particularly in franchising, that you have to think about what skill set you bring to the table and also the type of entrepreneurial mindset you have. With franchising, I think one of the greatest advantages is that there already is a roadmap. There's already a business plan to follow. And one of the things that we see, one of the ways that we see people not succeed in franchising is that they just don't follow that business plan. They don't follow the system. And there are those out there that really, aren't fit for franchising, and that they would rather do things their own way. They have a hard time following someone else's rules. They're more of a maverick type personality. They'd just rather do things their own way. And there's really no problem with that, but that type of person might not be a good fit for a franchise, because it really is important to follow the franchise system, because there really has been a lot of trial and error that went into that in the first place, a lot of investment as well. So there are reasons that franchisors require that their franchisees follow their blueprint. I hope that answers your question.
Oh, that's great. You talked about a third of franchises are food oriented. Can you talk about some of the other common types of franchises that you see out there beyond food? Absolutely.
It's really quite astounding how many different types of business models there are. But there are a lot. For example, there are a lot of home-based businesses. In fact, I myself didn't really realize that a franchise could be operated from home when I became a coach. I really didn't understand how much variety was available in franchising. So there might be home-based businesses that would be coaching or consulting related. Might be a tutoring business, a B2B professional service that might be offering marketing or social media services or consulting, maybe web design. Vending businesses can be operated from home as well, some distribution type businesses. So a lot of different types of home-based businesses. There's also a large variety of services that might be mobile in nature, where the owner is managing a team of technicians that are operating out of vans, so they're that mobile element that might be providing some type of service, whether it's painting or inspection or cleaning or restoration. Those are common franchises. Also, there's a lot of elder care and businesses that are serving that growing demographic. Financial services type businesses, direct mail, direct marketing companies. And then you have, even though they're not food related, some lighter retail type businesses that might be offering something in a specialty food category or fitness category, light manufacturing, sign making, automotive. And then, of course, you have larger retail that, although still might not be food-based, could be even a larger gym or spa, even hotels, storage type businesses that are operated out of a warehouse, things like that. So it really is incredible the type of variety you see now.
That's great. Which kind of brings to mind to me if an individual is looking at say a couple of different franchise opportunities, let's say in the same area, whether it's in food or it's in the fitness franchises, what would you say the key criteria are that they should consider when choosing between a couple of different opportunities? What should they really think about the most?
When looking at a couple of different opportunities, I think that we would suggest that they think about what they're looking to accomplish through owning that business, also the skill set that they bring to the table, their investment level, and the type of lifestyle they want to have when owning and operating that business. We find that if people start with their goals rather than just being drawn emotionally to a business model, it leads to the probability of a much more successful outcome.
In your prepared remarks, you didn't talk too much about exiting franchises. Do you have any comments on or advice for people on how to exit or get out if you've been in for a while?
Well, if you are looking to exit your franchise, then in many cases the franchisor will assist you. And for example, if you want to sell your business prior to the end of the term, I think what's very positive about a franchise model is that oftentimes you do get help from the franchisor. They will often advertise that your business is for sale through their own marketing channels, which I think is a big plus. I'm not sure if I'm completely answering your question. Is that what you were looking for in terms?
We do have a question from one of the participants who's asking what is the typical break-even time frame for a food or a quick service franchise business in terms of the break-even time frame? Is it a year, 2 years, or less?
Well, it depends on the business model, but I would say that it could be anywhere between 3 and 5 years, typically, the ROI. To get to break even? Oh, to get to break even. Oh, sorry. You know what? It really depends on the business model itself. That's a question that's hard to answer. Sorry, I was thinking about return on investment. But it really depends on the business model. That's a hard question for me to answer just in general terms.
Okay, so no rules of thumb.
No.
Okay, another one, this time from Kenny Clyburn. If I was to go to the franchise headquarters and introduce myself to the executive team,
I'm just waiting for the rest of the question.
Yeah, it's not a complete question, so maybe there's more coming. Oh, here it is. Oh, what question should I ask? It was just broken up into 2 chapters. Okay.
No, that's a really good question. And first of all, I'd like to say that in terms of going to a Discovery Day or Meet the Team Day, you would be invited, of course, and that's something that happens toward the end of the process. But I think that a lot of questions that people ask, they tend to have to do with the specific operations and what type of support they would receive as a franchise owner. because those are certainly important questions to have. Going to the headquarters allows you to meet those that would be supporting you, and so oftentimes those questions are appropriate because you're actually interfacing with the people that would be your support team.
Great.
But really just any question that's on your mind, because it's your opportunity. Before you take that step to become a franchise owner and sign that agreement, really just about any question is appropriate, and you want to definitely take that opportunity to ask any and all questions that you do have.
Okay, we don't have any other questions coming in right now, but maybe we'll just wait. Pause for a minute here and see if there's some last questions coming in.
Okay.
If there's anything else that you want to go back to or elaborate on while we're waiting, Carolyn.
Well, I think I'm pretty good. I'll just be happy to answer any other questions that come our way.
Another question coming in, how much support does the home office provide to a franchisee?
Well, it actually does vary by franchisor, but you should feel that you are well supported. They all will offer or should offer an initial training program. And in most cases, this is usually a week, which takes place at the corporate location. Depending on the type of business model, they might also have additional training at the unit location or in the specific territory where the business is going to be operating. And then they will also have a ongoing support program for their franchisees, and that's typically for the life of the franchise agreement. In some cases, franchises will have an interim layer of support through an area or regional developer. And that's really nice because it does give you that extra layer between the corporate team. So that's really nice to have. But initial training, ongoing support is something that you should expect. Operations manual and other literature, and again, that support through the other owners in the system, depending on the culture. But that is typically the case. Having the help from other owners is something you can expect as well.
Yeah, that's great. Another question from Rick Schaefer, who's asking, have you owned a franchise?
Well, I actually am a franchise owner with the Entrepreneur Source, so yes, I am. I'm a current owner. And I see another question that came in.
Yeah. And what parameters, sales or otherwise, must be looked into before deciding to quit a franchise?
I'm not sure I fully understand the question, but I guess I think what you're asking is, what factors should you consider if you're thinking about discontinuing with the franchise business?
Yeah, I think it's quitting. It's about exiting. What should you consider if you're going to quit?
Well, first of all, there's always a franchise term in agreement, so it's not open-ended. In most cases, the franchise agreement is in place for 10 years, 10 or 15 years. It depends on the franchise. But so you, as a franchisee, you're really expected to fulfill the full term of the agreement. So, you really shouldn't just quit the term of the agreement unless you're going to sell the business. I mean, if you want to engage in a resale. But there is a term. So I guess to me, that is quite a personal choice. I guess that it would depend on your own circumstances, whether or not, for whatever reason, you need to sell the business for economic or other personal reasons. In general, there aren't any specific parameters that are suggested in order, that you should leave a franchise network.
Another question from Kenny Clyburn. Do you have any negotiating strategies when negotiating with a franchise dealer or a franchise seller?
Well, I don't have a lot of experience with resale negotiations. However, I think that something to consider would be to understand the industry, other competitors, and maybe even make sure you understand the business model by going through the standard evaluation process, just to make sure that you are really well educated about that particular business model. But I think that will put you in a good position to, by being very informed, would put you in a very, knowledgeable position and understanding the competition. And I would imagine that in evaluating a resale, you're also going to have access to financial information, so that will be helpful for you as well to have that information at your disposal.
Just to follow on that, do most franchise agreements allow you to sell to another franchisee before the term is up, or do you need an approval or an exception in the agreement?
Well, the franchisor is going to want to approve the new franchisee because, again, you are joining. The new franchisee still has to be awarded the business. So they do have to give their blessing, so to speak.
Yeah, that's great. We don't have any other questions online right now, but maybe we'll just pause. We still have a few minutes, so we'll just pause
Sure.
if there's any others come in. And
okay.
If not, we'll wrap it up.
Okay. Sounds great.
Okay. Well, I don't think I think we've exhausted the questions right now, so I think we'll wind it up here. And just want to have a reminder to everyone that SCORE, at Fairfield County, we now have 2 webinars every month, and as I mentioned at the opening, our next one is on Tuesday, December 6th, and the topic is retirement and tax planning for small businesses with Sunil Sharma presenting. So on behalf of SCORE, I'd like to thank all of you for attending today's live webinar. And remember to visit scorefairfieldcounty.org if you'd like to get the materials or hear the replay. So in closing, Carolyn, big thank you to you for presenting today, and have a nice day and a happy Thanksgiving, everyone.